It's November on the St Croix River between Minnesota and Wisconsin. And we're on our way to something unbelievable. A secret cave overlooking the river. Oh man. The depths of this cave have never been fully explored. What in the world? And so we're paddling the river to check it out. Oh no. So let's stoke that fire, heat up some stew, and brave the freezing November weather. This is Tiny Cabin Life. This is the St Croix National Scenic Riverway, a national park unit set aside to preserve the beauty and the historical significance of the St Croix. We're pulling into the Osceola Landing, an access point just outside of Osceola, Wisconsin, on the Minnesota side of the river. Now, our goal for this trip is to paddle down the St. Croix to a hidden cave, the largest of its kind on the St. Croix, with tight, lengthy passages that have never been fully explored. There are two major challenges for us on this trip. First off is finding the cave. It's not really on any maps, and so it's going to be up to us to track it down. The second is making sure we stay warm and dry. It's November here in Minnesota, and so the temperature is definitely going to dip down below freezing.
All right, guys, this is it. We're ready to go, and this is going to be a true adventure. You know, I've done a lot of backpacking, a lot of camping. Paddling is a little more outside my comfort zone, but it's going to be great. You know, this is an attainable amount of miles for a beginner like me, and I'm really stoked to find this cave and do some exploring there as well.
Our first goal is to get to the cave, about 3.5 miles away. I want to note that this is a national park unit, which means there are a few extra rules that we have to abide by. One of which is that I'm not able to film with my drone like I normally would. So we'll just have to make do with our other cameras.
All right, guys, we are officially out in the main channel now, and so far so good. Paddling feels good. Our gear raft is towing nicely. I think we're set up for success here.
The St. Croix is a very significant river. It forms part of the border between Minnesota and Wisconsin and runs a length of 169 miles before joining up with the Mississippi.
I don't paddle rivers too often, but when I do, it's always such an awesome experience. There's just something about watching the landscape pass by you, and then you turn corners and there's a completely new view up ahead. It's just a sense of adventure and discovery that you really don't get when you're paddling lakes. So if you take a look over there, that's a designated campsite here on the river. You have to camp in those designated places. So we're going to be looking for one of those signs once we get closer to the cave.
This section of the river requires a camping permit, and you're asked to camp in designated spots to preserve the landscape. And while the majority of the land is under the protection of the National Park Service, you will find little parcels of private land mixed in as well.
Well, guys, we're making really good progress. We've already made it over halfway to where the cave is. So I'm feeling really good. Ellie's having a good time, and it's just a beautiful day.
I decided to try and do some fishing since we were making such good time. Now, there are a lot of different species of fish in the St. Croix River, like northern pike, walleye, bass, and even some sturgeon and muskies. Where I'm floating, the river is very, very shallow, only like a couple of feet deep, and nothing really seemed to be chasing my lure. So eventually I decided to put the fishing pole down and paddle the last little stretch towards the cave. We are within a couple hundred yards
of where we're supposed to get out to go search for this thing. So I'm gonna start making my way over to the bank over here, and we'll get ready to hop off. We made it, and I think I see the cave already. I think it's harder for people to locate it when there's actual greenery, you know, and leaves on the trees. But right now, since all the leaves are gone, you can see it. It's just like right up there.
It feels good to be back on shore and to have finally reached our first destination. And I know Ellie was glad to get a little swim in as well. The plan is to take off our kayaking gear and swap it out for a headlamp and some flashlights and make our way up towards the cave. There's no trail leading up there. Just a semi-beaten path from other explorers who have been here before. The cave here has a rich history, originally being used by Native Americans for centuries as a campsite. In fact, early explorers found Native American pottery that was left behind. Later on, the cave was used by Swedish immigrants who actually stayed for an entire winter inside the cave. And at one point, it was even used as a hideout by cattle thieves. Today, it's kind of a secret location for travelers on the river. And since it's surrounded by private land above the cave, that's really the only way to reach it. Now, if you take a look, you've got a nice big room right here, but from what I've heard about, there are some smaller rooms as you make your way back. So we'll make our way back into some of the smaller rooms and check it out, and then we'll go from there. I've done my fair share of caving in the past, including the type where you're crawling on your hands and knees and squeezing through tight passageways. However, since I'm alone out here, I'm going to be steering clear of any tight spots. Weird. Up on the ceiling of the cave here are a bunch of mosquitoes that seem to be just like stunned. I found out that while some mosquitoes die off during the colder months, others will actually hibernate in caves like this during the winter. And then also you got just a massive spider hanging out up there. Lots of creepy crawlers back here, that's for sure. So if you guys take a look at this, this is a crawl space that certainly leads deeper into the cave. Oh my gosh, when I shine the lights, you can see all of these bugs start to move. Do you see that spider? Oh my gosh. Now, I used to crawl into tiny spaces like this every now and then in some of my old adventures with my buddy, and it is exhilarating. When you feel that the walls are closing around you and you have no choice but to just keep crawling forward, it tests you, but man, it's an adventure and a lot of fun. Good girl, Elle. We made our way towards the upper room of the cave, which required just a tiny bit of scrambling to reach. So this right here, you guys, is the furthest upward accessible room in the cave. And if you look straight ahead, it goes further. You could continue to crawl back there, but I definitely am not doing that. Not today. Wow, you guys, check out the stalactites. That is incredible. What in the world? So that right there is a bat, and I bet you he is hibernating. We definitely don't want to disturb him, so we should probably back out of here. Bats will enter a state of dormancy during hibernation, allowing them to reduce their metabolic rate and their body temperature in order to conserve as much energy as possible. This way. They're definitely more fragile during this state, so I'm glad I noticed this bat so we can get out of here and not disturb them any further. Man, how cool is it to know that native people camped out in there? They left pottery behind. Settlers spent the winter in there because they had nowhere else to go. And now we're able to paddle this river, discover this cave for ourselves, and get in there and have just an incredibly unique experience. It's what makes our national parks and wild places so special. And I'm really glad to see that this cave is in such good condition. Before continuing on to our campsite, I heated up a little bit of lunch on the riverbank. Pretty soon here, it'll be time for Ellie to eat dinner. And recently, we've been trying a new food that is just perfect for her on these sorts of backcountry trips. It's called Sundays, and Ellie is loving it. It's fresh, healthy dog food that can be stored and served easily. A lot of the other fresh foods that we've tried for Ellie have to be kept cold. You got to keep them in the fridge or the freezer. Well, Sundays can really be stored anywhere, and it makes it so much more convenient on backcountry trips like this, where cooler space is very, very limited. But make no mistake, we're not sacrificing Ellie's health for the sake of convenience. They use an air drying process to make the fresh food able to be stored at room temperature. And Sundays is made from a short list of human-grade ingredients containing 90% meat, 10% vegetables, and 0 synthetic ingredients. As you can see, Ellie absolutely loves the food. She gobbles it right down, and I can tell it's almost like a little bit of a treat for her at the end of a long day like today. And you can see how easy it was to pack for this trip as well. I just had to put 1 serving into this bag, and it takes up barely any space in my pack. And dog owners notice a lot of changes in their dogs once they start eating Sundays. Things like softer fur, better breath, and just more sustained energy throughout the day. Every order ships right to your door, so you don't have to worry about running out of food. It's gonna be there for you. We're loving Sundays, so is Ellie, and it's the perfect fit for our lifestyle. So if you want to try Sundays for your pup, all you have to do is follow the link in the description of this video and use my code TCL60 to receive 60% off a special discount for Black Friday. But make sure to hop on it because this deal will only last until the end of the month. Just a little quick fuel to get us back on the water. It's crazy. This time of year, the sun sets so incredibly early. It's gonna go down before 5. So I wanna make sure we get a campsite, we get set up, and are comfortable before it gets dark. Well, we're back on the water. The cave is disappearing in the distance behind us. And next stop is gonna be camp. I'm looking forward to getting things set up and relaxing a bit. While paddling, I noticed something making its way down the river. To me, it looks like a snake, and though we don't have many water snakes in Minnesota, you do see them, I guess, here on the St. Croix from time to time. Just up ahead of us is a historic swing bridge on the St. Croix. It was built in 1887 when there was tons of river traffic. It was engineered to swing open to allow boats to pass, and then close down again so that the railroad could cross the river. Today, it no longer swings open, having been welded in its closed position. And like the cave, is mainly only accessible from the water. Now that we're through the bridge, it's time to keep our eyes peeled for campsites. I think we might have a campsite here. Yup, that's definitely one. All right, we're gonna take it. All right, we made it. This is home for the night. I let Ellie out of the raft and onto shore. But as soon as I took one step off the raft, Somehow, I was full on submerged in the river and the raft had flipped over. Oh no. Next to the banks of the river there, it dropped off to above my head. And everywhere else on the river has been shallow. I cannot believe that. And so I dumped my gear in the water. It's in dry bags. This stuff is, at least. And then my camera is totally submerged, and so is my phone. Just shows how things can go from good to bad like that. Man, I hope my clothes are dry. If not, we may have to just paddle to the landing and not spend the night out here. Everything feels dry in there. Thank God. This is all my other gear and my clothes. So I have dry clothes. After it was all said and done, the only casualty of the accident was my main camera. Which, don't get me wrong, I'm not happy about that, but I suppose it could have been a lot worse. Now that I'm in dry clothes, it's time to get our camp set up. I decided to bring my ultralight hot tent along on this one. It's very simple to set up. You just put down a few stakes, pop up the pole in the middle, and it's good to go. I brought Ellie's insulated sleeping pad and her sleeping bag along. And then, of course, a cot, sleeping pad, and sleeping bag for me. And then finally, for heat while we're awake, I decided it would be easiest to just bring our propane buddy heater along. Well, I think it's time for some more beefaroni. Solid again. I'd eat just about anything right now. The moon came out, and Ellie and I hung out by the fire as long as we possibly could. But eventually, the wood ran out, and it was time to head inside the tent. Good girl. We warmed up for a while by the heater, but before we knew it, it was time to shut it off and get some sleep.
Beavers were like slapping their tails last night, and there were some other noises, and Ellie got a little freaked out, so let her come up and sleep on the bed. Didn't get the best sleep. It was really rough having Ellie up on the bed, but that's the way it goes. You know, I don't come out here to get good sleep. That's for sure. not gonna lie, you guys, I'm dreading having to tear all this stuff down and go out in the cold and paddle that raft again.
But of course, I had to do it. It was time to tear down the tent and pack up the rafts.
All right, guys, the rafts are packed up and it's time to hit the water. Let's hope I can get into the raft without slipping again. All right, I'm in. Let's get out of here.
We had some extra time before we were supposed to meet Riley at the landing. And so we took the opportunity to just float down the river, taking it all in. But eventually, we reached the landing, and our journey came to an end.
All right, we made it.
It's called Log House Landing, and I have to imagine that the remains of this old fireplace here give a clue as to how it got the name.
Well, we made it, guys. Man, what an awesome experience this was. Being out on the river when we're this close to winter was just absolutely surreal, but also discovering that cave and being able to explore it was such a treat. It's so cool to know that there are hidden gems like that all over the place. You just got to get out and find them. Now, as always, I want to thank our patrons for your support. It means the world to us, but to all of you who watch and support this channel, thank you. You're the ones that allow us to be able to go out on these adventures and share them with you. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Now I got to get all this gear up the hill so I'm ready when Riley arrives. So we're going to end the video here. We'll see you guys next week. And as always, God bless.